We are live, my man.
Good deal.
Ladies and gentlemen, first and foremost, I want to say that I've done a live stream with Mark, and in my previous live stream, my beard was way longer than his. Just so you guys know, okay? His might be longer now, but at one time, my beard was way longer. I was like kind of, trepidatious about coming on with you today, and now, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay.
I'm sharing this real quick to my page. I'm listening to you.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
I got to share it to my page too. How are you doing, man?
Doing good, man. Doing really well. Hanging in there. It's just another year.
Just another year. Hold on, let me refresh this to make sure that it's. Yes, we are. We're live streaming, and while we're sharing this, while we're waiting for people to trickle in here for a little bit, if you guys are hearing this, please consider sharing it. More people the merrier, especially with Mark. He's an awesome dude. And we are live. And if you like what I do, please consider supporting me on Patreon. I'll put a link to my Patreon down in the comments below. And to all my Patreon supporters, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm saving up to get a MacBook Pro laptop, and the one that I want is like $4,000. And so, yeah, they're getting expensive, but
Yeah.
hopefully this will be one that lasts me, 10 years, and then I can take the show on the road, get some audio equipment. I have a goal, Mark, of meeting with some older people in the dog industry, people in person, and just kind of capturing their voices, because as you can tell by the gray in Mark's beard, we're mine too. Mine's catching up, but we're getting older, man, and we stand on the shoulder of giants, and we need to give thanks and praise to, well, first and foremost, God.
Yes.
Above, right? But we also have to remember that we're not reinventing the wheel here.
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of stuff that is like tried and true. And I think that we see a lot of newcomers coming out with their own little spin on things. And it's important. What do you think, man? What do you about like going to the legacy of dog training? And, this isn't something that's new in the world.
I think what you started off saying there, I'm 100% with you on it. I recently did a live with George Cockrell, and he's got like 40 something years experience. And one of the reasons why I did it, I mean, I'm friends with him and I respect him greatly, but I thought about it, and I was like, we're all these dog trainers are doing all these live streams, and it's wonderful. And I think it's such a cool medium that we have. But how great would it have been if we could have had these trainers from 30, 40 years ago that are now passed away? If we could have had video, we don't even have VHS tapes of some of these people, you know what I mean? And it would have just been wonderful to be able to have these candid conversations that are documented, that the generations of trainers to come can go back and look at. So I think I think that'd be wonderful if you do that, really.
Well, it reminds me of just going to the IACP events in the past. Like, I think that things have definitely changed. The flavors kind of changed in the world with the advent of this technology. In one way, it's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And in another way, it's easy for people to curate, to make themselves a little bit something that they're not.
Right.
And
Sure.
And the important thing is hands on dogs, and getting experience and humbling yourself. And there's a thing called the Dunning-Kruger effect, and I was that guy. Were you at the beginning of your career? Were you kind of that guy?
I think we all were. Yeah.
What you think, everything. You think you come in, and even as you're young too. Like, I see people, and when I was young, I'm so happy that I didn't have this stuff as a youngster, because you're young and dumb, and you think you can conquer the world, and then the world kind of shows you the truth about how it really is.
Yeah, and I think when depending on how long ago somebody got into it, it was easier to think you knew everything because guess what? You didn't really have any colleagues nearby. You didn't have any competition to compare yourself with. So you could literally know how to make a dog walk on a loose leash, and you were the best person in your friggin' community because there wasn't anybody else. I mean, there were, don't get me wrong, there were people who knew how to train dogs, but not a lot of people were doing it outside of like dog obedience clubs and stuff like that. So, it was easy to think that you were the best. And then as the community started to grow, you started to realize, man, I got a lot to learn from a lot of people. And then the journey never, as you know, the journey never ends.
Yeah. There's no finish line. That's what I tell my students. That's what I practice myself is I'm always learning. And sometimes, man, I mean, you learn things from everybody, right? And to not get so stuck in your belief system that you're not able to learn, you're dead in the water, bro.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and this industry will bite you in the ass, literally.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, and the Christopher Upton, can we talk about
you're late, bro. I already did.
And the long hair, right?
Yeah, your hair's longer than mine too, dude.
Yeah.
Thanks,
we got
Mark.
the full mane going on. I think we both could have tried out for Wizard of Oz or something and Ben the Lion or whatever. Especially you with the red. But I'm sorry, I lost what you were even asking me.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. No, I'm just talking about the dogs biting you in the ass, right? This is an industry that will literally bite you in the ass. And sometimes that's what it takes, man, is that you think that you know everything, you practice this cookie cutter kind of system, and then you get a dog that's like, try that shit with me, dude.
Right.
I dare you, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, I need to rethink this approach, right? And then you start to realize that there's an aspect of relationship with this, and that the more the dog trusts you, the further you can take a dog. And then you realize when a dog is overwhelmed, you realize when a dog is ready to kind of chill and let the information process, what we call soak, let the information soak in, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we're always learning from the dogs. Each dog we come across is different. I mean, some of us have our systems that we like to follow, and for the longest time, I wasn't a systems guy at all. I actually would always tell my clients that, like, I view the dog that's in front of me and I train by feel and what I see. And I think in a big picture, we do that even in a system, right?
Yeah.
But what I found after so many years, and we're talking 20 years into training, that I didn't really have any system. It was just what I knew and what I knew worked, but it was hard to replicate that to a way that the clients could understand it, where they need a step by step. They need things to follow, because they don't have that feel. They don't have that eye like you have. And so at some point coming along and getting involved in more of a system, but then again, still being able to modify things, based on, like as Pat Nolan always says, the principles, how does he put it? The principles are the same in dog training, but it's the technique and how you apply it. So.
Well, Pat, dude, I'm still here for you, Pat Nolan. I want you on one of these live streams. You've learned from Pat?
I've been to a couple of his seminars. Yeah, I've been to his it was a canine one for police canines that was put on down in Georgia, and it was the tactical direction stuff that he does, and e-collar, kind of a slash combination of the two of those. And then I've been to a nose work detection one that he put on as well. Anytime I can get in front of Pat is great. And I mean, you're always going to learn something when you're around Pat, but he's he's such a great guy. You're never going to walk away from a workshop with him and feel like anything but good, So he's just a great guy.
Yeah, I've heard. I can't wait to meet him. I really can't. I've been watching some of his videos. I just watched. He did a Zoom call, and it's just like every aspect of his approach makes sense, man. And with e-collars, with these tools that we use, it's something that even as a professional, you pick up things, when you watch other professionals, when you kind of lower that ego and realize that you can learn something from other people, and
Mhm.
and truly listen, right? And truly don't have a subset of beliefs that allows the information to kind of bounce off you. Let the information in, let it disseminate, and then also be able to apply that and be ready to change, right?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it was like I had, I don't know if you caught that, but I had that live a couple weeks ago with Bo Harrison, and uh, just giving him a platform to be able to share what he's doing. Whether or not I'm going to use it or not is a totally different story, but still, it's information, right? It's
Yeah.
information that I'm taking. It's working for him, and that's wonderful. But I don't want to be in an echo chamber where the only people I'm talking to are people who do exactly what I do. You know, that's no room for growth for me. So, um,
Well, and the people that don't know it, didn't watch Bo does this thing where he does primarily vibration, right? With the collar, he
right.
he pairs the vibration with really good feelings as a motivator, and
Mhm.
so that's primarily what he uses, which is much more
Right.
palatable, right, for our everyday dog person, our pet
Sure.
people, right? Because that's the last thing that they want to do. Is I've had people call me and they're like, he wanted to throw a shock collar on my dog. And I'm just like, well, I do too, dude, because
Yeah.
what you're dealing with right now, I need to have that extra layer of communication. And they just have a misconception of the approach,
Mhm.
because and rightfully so, because there is a way that you can definitely screw up a dog by just slapping this, either a shitty quality e-collar, right, from Amazon or something, and then, oh dude, I get these
I
things
was
where
gonna say, what's with the bubbles on your screen?
that's
It's
my
like you're throwing
reaction.
bubbles.
Yeah, I got this too where I can do that, I think. I don't know, but and fireworks go off and stuff too.
Oh,
It's
wow.
my positive reinforcement here.
Okay.
But yeah, and I think I'm gonna have Bo and his brother Joel on here as well, and talk to
Mhm.
both of them. And yeah, man, and what I like about it is that he had answers, right? He had
Mhm.
answers of this doesn't necessarily mean a consequence is coming. This isn't, like I was saying, I usually use it if I don't have
Mhm.
contact. Um and just like you were talking about with your dog, when you're out on your property and he sees some
Mhm.
deer,
Mhm.
right? And you yell at him to come back, and then the vibration, how, or what did you say? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was just something like that. I mean, I don't even use an e-collar on him much, and Bo was right. I mean, when I do use the vibration on him, it is being used as an aversive. It's not a condition reinforcer in the same way that he uses it, and I completely admit to that. The I guess to me, the biggest benefit to using vibration on the e-collar is the fact that contact is it never an issue, you know. Um, and that's a nice luxury to have, to have never worry about contact issues. I had a dog that I just got through training, a German Shepherd, and his coat was like a dang husky. And even with the ultra wings from e-collar tech, the contact was a constant battle for me every day. It was a struggle. So yeah, it's one of them things. That's why I'll be honest with you, I have a love-hate relationship with e-collars. I mean, they're such a wonderful tool, but I'm much more of a hands-on, simplistic kind of a guy with the way that I train, and just the feel. I like just the feel of working the leash and making a hands-on connection with the dog. And that's why partially why I lay such a strong foundation before I go to e-collar, because I enjoy that work. I like that. So
Yeah, I feel the same way. In fact, I have a board and train here, and they have one of the most expensive e-collars in the market. I got the new Martin System
yeah,
Chameleon 4, and I got it right here. But guess what, man? I've never put it on them yet,
really.
even though, because the foundation needs to be laid, in my opinion. And then I'll use the e-collar as
Mhm.
as another layer of communication,
Right.
right? And so that's, and first I establish a trust with the dog, let him hang out with me, let him hang out with my dogs, and establish who's head honcho here, because the
Mhm.
dog didn't really know any boundaries with other dogs. And so I'm letting him interact. And this is a poodle. So just like we were talking about earlier, we wish more people got poodles or
Yeah.
labs or golden retrievers. And so I can trust this dog a little bit more. And so I'm not worried about him being reactive, hurting one of my little dogs or anything like that. And then if he starts to get a little bit too much and the dog's communicating and this dog that I have is not listening, then I become an advocate for whatever dog is getting overwhelmed by his presence. And I show the
Right.
dog that that's unacceptable, establish the relationship, long line work, and then do my automatic sits, a heel work. It's Keeler, right?
Yeah.
For people
Yeah.
that don't know, it's Keeler. And that's kind of my mother language that
Mhm.
I tell people. And even though we do have a process, there is allowances that are baked into the process in case we have dogs that aren't really putting it together. We can
Mhm.
work longer with them. We can work on what we call overwhelm and thresholds, how close, how far.
Mhm.
And then we have the e-collar too, man. If we have a dog that's just really not getting it or having
Yeah.
problems with that threshold and overwhelm, then we can put an e-collar on a little bit earlier,
Right. Absolutely. No, we speak
right?
in the same language for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we have all these tools, all these options, but I have kind of a path that I like to delve first to ensure that that foundation, we go to step 1, step 2, step 3,
Mhm.
and then we have a dog that's having a hard time going to step 4, right? And so then it's
Right.
like, okay, well, let's open up the toolkit,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? Let's talk about that's where I actually like, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a problem that's presented that we have to solve, and we have kind of this puzzle in front of us, and then that's where the eclectic knowledge base of learning from other people, or having a network, a community
Mhm.
that you can say, hey, look, I'm having a hard time with this. What would you do?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you have that on your page too with you have a pretty good community there.
On the Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also with Canine Command too,
Yeah.
with all the people that you work with,
Yeah.
um and so it's good to have, man. It's valuable. I've often told people your network is your net worth.
There you go. Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, and I think the thing I love about we're going back to the Keeler and just like a systems based sort of a training thing is that uh, before you move on, you should be putting your dog through some sort of a readiness test, which is something that many don't do in any of their training, their board and trains, whatever it is. It's just a flow. We just go on one week to the next to the next. But are you testing the dog in a certain way to see if the dog is mentally prepared, has learned the lesson that you were trying to teach before we move on to the next thing? And if it's not, then don't rush on to the next thing. Start figuring out. And if you have to change things up a little bit, you start changing things up. But you should have you really can't say that you're building a foundation if you're not testing the foundation before you start laying the next layers, right? Like if you were building a foundation and the concrete wasn't properly cured, and then you start building something on top of it, well, you don't really have a foundation at all because you didn't test it. And so I feel that that's one of the things that I have learned through the years. It took me a long time to learn is just testing the dog during certain phases to see where am I at, because you can get a false positive from a dog, especially like with me having a training facility and I'm just training in here all the time, and I can get a very much a false positive on what the dog is really
Mhm.
responding to.
Yeah, we call that in the aquarium, right? You're in
Yeah.
a place that's the same
Yeah.
over and over, and that's why, like, I go to these outlet malls, I go to places that are I mean, in the world that we live in, Mark, we're gonna encounter chaos. The natural rhythm of this plane of existence or this universe is order and chaos, right?
Mhm.
Chaos and order. And I tell people, dude, I got clients that are just like, man, they keep walking by my house with their dog and it sets my dog off. How dare they? How dare them,
Yeah.
right? And
Right.
I love freedom, bro. I love the fact that we live in America. I love the fact that I got my guns. I'm a big fan of that, bro. Like,
Yeah.
and with freedom, there's no guarantee of safety. Like, that aspect of like you have to take responsibility. Responsibility is your order or your ability to respond, right? Responsibility, ability to respond, and so I have to remind him, man, we live in a free country.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. And
Mhm.
that street out there isn't yours.
Right.
It's all of ours.
Yeah.
Right. Do you encounter that much, or how do you deal with that when somebody starts to blame the world instead of their dog or what their relationship with their dog?
Well, I mean, it's kind of it's kind of a wide-based question there. It's kind of hard to say, but I'm just real with people as much as I can be. You know, they'll ask me what would I do in situations, and then my responses sometimes are very surprising to them. You know, I'm not I come across like on the internet as being like, you know, like a badass or whatever, but like in person, I'm like a big teddy bear, you know.
Yeah.
To my clients, I am, you know, but in public, if I'm out with one of my dogs and I'm in public, if like I own that space that I'm at with my dog, you
I gotta
know.
kiss my wife, but goodbye real quick. Hold on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Love you.
But you know, if I'm out with my dog out in public, wherever my little circle, that's my space, and you got no reason to encroach on that space at all. And I'll be downright rude to somebody if I need to be.
Oh yeah.
That's my freedom, that area that I'm in. As long as I have a legal right to be there and I'm with my dog, you know, you know how it is. People come up and they ask you if they can pet your dog and all that kind of stuff. And I'm kind to them, but I'm straight to the point. No, you may not. But thanks for asking, and I just keep on moving. You know,
Yep.
I don't really stand around and have dialogue with them. I just go about my business.
Yeah, same with me. Like I was just this guy, the poodle that I'm working with, has kids in the family, and so I go down into my town center, especially when the school gets out, when I know there's going to be a bunch of kids playing in the park and whatnot, because I want him to experience the chaos that is kids, dude, the unpredictable nature that is kids. And we're doing our automatic sits, and we got kids all day coming by. Oh my goodness, it's so cute. Can I pet your dog? No, we're in training. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for asking. And you know what I tell him? I was like, if he's good, I'll pet him twice for you. Okay.
I like that. That's good. That's and you know what that does is it's like they don't understand what you just did, but you just had like a little psychological warfare with them when you just basically said it's not about the dog to you, it's about you. You wanted to touch the dog for your own emotional state. It wasn't you didn't feel like the dog needed to be petted. You felt like you needed to feel the dog. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So you taking that away from them.
Yeah. Well, and then they're like, oh, thank you, and or whatever. And I'm just like, yeah, later. See ya.
Yeah.
I'll pet him twice for you. Like we had a dog. This guy, I didn't realize that I took him to a Petco or PetSmart, and he hates those sliding glass doors.
Yeah.
At the beginning. So I'm sitting in that little breezeway, letting him just deal, bro. And he is like shaking like a leaf. This dog is looking very pathetic and very ugly. We're in
Right.
the messy middle here, man. And the dog is just like looking around, and I'm just standing there cool as a cucumber, and people are coming in and be like, oh my gosh, the dog, can I pet him? And I'm
Yeah.
like, no, dude. No,
Yeah.
he's learning how to deal with life right now.
Yeah.
Thank you, but and that's what I'll say. I'll pet him once he shapes up, starts to put it together, and I let him know, look, he's afraid of these doors,
Mhm.
and now he's afraid of you because
Because you're associated with what he's afraid of. Yeah.
right. And so and sometimes, I mean, I don't always wear my Bow Wow Bill, because even in some of the places, I don't really want people to know I'm a professional trainer. I want, especially in businesses that offer
Mhm.
training, you might get the boot, man,
Yeah.
and rightfully so, because they have an interest in keeping their audience, and so I get that. But yeah, and the other thing I wanted to talk about was go back to like the readiness test that you were saying earlier, man. Like one thing I don't see in the industry is standards. And the standard is a level of quality or attainment that we have and that we need to adhere to. And when I have these readiness tests, I call those our checkpoints,
Mhm.
right? And once we've hit this checkpoint, it's like a race, or you're Mr. Rucksack, dude. I need to lose some weight and get back into that too, man. Build my muscle and so I'm a little jelly, but do you have checkpoints? Do you have along these races? And what is a rucksack race? What is those things that I'm talking about? So people that might not know or listening.
Okay, so we're talking rucksacks. Yeah, I mean rucking is basically just it's just carrying weight over distance, basically. So it all comes back from like the military, which I wasn't military, retired law enforcement. So we didn't ruck anything but our duty belt. but but rucking comes from the military, them having to carry anywhere from 40 to 100 pounds on their back of gear, just over whatever terrain that they had to, go over for days on end, right? Whatever it took. And of course in military, during their boot camps and their training, they do long ruck marches, 12, 20 miles and stuff like that, carrying 40 pounds under time. It has to be done under a certain time. So that's where a lot of that came from. But rucking is as far as like exercise wise, it's a really cool activity because a lot of people aren't comfortable with running as much anymore because of injuries and that sort of thing. And rucking is nothing more than hiking. Okay. You can be at a slow walking pace, or you can be at what they call like a ranger shuffle, where you're just shuffling your feet at a slow jog
Okay.
while you're still carrying that weight. And it allows carrying this load of weight the whole entire time. And it is working like every muscle in your body while you're doing it, right? Because you got the weight on your shoulders, you're stable, your core is having to stabilize everything so that you're not hurting your lower back, and it's just you're doing all this different stuff, and it's just enjoyable. It's kind of a beastly thing to do, and I like to do beastly stuff, and anything that I can do to challenge myself to be able to feel good that I'm 51 years old and I can still go out here and do this stuff. I'm up for it, you know.
Well, your metabolic engine is your muscles,
Yeah.
right? And people need to realize that. And I recently had pneumonia, bro. Like, as I'm 47 years old, right? And so as we grow older, it's a trip because these things just pop up.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna get we have some comments here. I'll get to your comments here in just a little bit. But I had a realization, man, as I was in the hospital, and I've never been this sick, dude. Like
Yeah.
and it was kind of freaked me out a little bit,
Sure.
right? And so I'm getting back in it. I'm working out every day, and and a lot of that I need to build this muscle back up. I need to do solid weight resistance training, and then I used to run half marathons. I used to run marathons as a younger kid, and so that's something that I have a goal for. Now with the rucking, and that's where I want to go back to, is like these checkpoints and
Yeah.
and the standards and like when you have these checkpoints, not just in the rucking, but when we're working with dogs, there's a goal,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's a goal that we keep our eye on,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's also, how's it feel when you hit those checkpoints?
Well, on the physical side of things, doing rucking, a lot of the rucking stuff that I do, some of the events have checkpoints and some of them don't. Some of them are pretty much self-supported. You have to carry a designated amount of weight, like a minimum standard of weight. And then everything else is food and water on top of that. So you're pretty much self-supported, like you're out there and you just got to deal with it, right? And then for the longer events, I failed at it, but I went down to Florida to Ocala to do an event down there. It was like a 68-mile event, and I dropped out at mile 44. But about every 10 to 15 miles, there was a checkpoint. And it's like every checkpoint is not only a relief, but also it's like the worst feeling in the world because you realize how much further you have to go. So it really kind of mentally sucks because when you get to the checkpoint, you don't want to leave, right? Because then you're out there in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the night, by yourself, suffering, hurting, wanting to quit. And so once you leave that checkpoint, you're committed to like another 10 to 15 miles, right? So, but as far as dog training goes, like I don't really know, like the readiness, just they make me know that I've accomplished a certain benchmark that I want to reach with the dog, right? So typically in my week 1 work, it's I want the dog to learn to be attentive to me, right? So, and that's in the face of distraction. The dog has to make a choice that when it sees a distraction, that competing motivator, that when it sees it, it chooses comfort to pay attention to me. And so that once we have that, then I know that I'm ready to move on. And if I don't have it, if I'm honest with myself and I don't have that level of attentiveness that I want and I move on, I know I'm going to have problems down the road. I know that if I don't achieve the things that I want in these benchmarks, what's going to happen is I'm going to wind up having to put more pressure on the dog, be more punitive. And that's obviously not my goal as a trainer. So that's why I like to have these little checkpoints to be able to check in and say, is the dog ready? Is the dog ready to move on? If it's not, then you have to figure out what you need to do, a few more days or whatever. And like you were talking about earlier, like thresholds and buffers, and to not overwhelm the dog and kind of figure out how to strategically, and that's a lot of it too, is in this way of going about it, is a lot of our training is strategically set up.
Yes.
Versus,
there's a reason for it.
Yeah, versus like just like, oh, I think we're good today to go to Lowe's and walk around and do stuff, and you don't know what you're going to get into. There's a time and a place for that proofing, but when I'm teaching a dog, I want to have control over the environment that I'm in, because I want there to be triggers. I want the dog to face certain things, but I want to be proactive in how I go about it, where I'm not like all of a sudden, oh God, I didn't expect this to happen, right? Like I want to be prepared because there's a lesson in mind that I'm trying to teach the dog when I set up a training scenario, you know? And that's all that is doing, is preparing the dog for the end of the week when I'm going to test it. And if I don't do those things, then the dog will fail the test. You know, I didn't put the work in for the dog to fully be ready to be tested.
Well, and this is where positive reinforcement really comes in, man, because when you've done the work, when you prepare the dog, and when the dog responds, dude, the positive reinforcement's real.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? When you see like a huge distraction and that dog turns and looks right at you,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, I'm not falling for it, man. And you're like, good dog.
Exactly.
It's true, man. And you're really proud of that animal.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where people want to get. But a lot of times I see that they put the cart before the horse because that's what feels good, and they don't prepare for that inevitable correction, that inevitable encounter, that inevitable chaos that you're going to experience. And so that's it. It's like, might as well control the environment, prepare the dog, prepare yourself. And when I say prepare yourself, that's like what we were talking about with every dog is different, and know the dog at the end of the leash that you're working with at that time. And we can't rush it. And that's what Chris, we'll go to his comment here real quick. Why do you think old school trainers did not rush the training? And this is exactly why. Today's trainers train so soon and overload the dog's mindset. Very pertinent to what we're talking about right now.
Absolutely. I mean, I think there's a lot of reasons for it. Number one is money. You know, I mean, people are trying to get things done. I think we have two different human factors involved. We have the customer end, and then we have the profession end, right? The customer, we live in a society now where everybody wants something done fast. They don't want to work hard enough to do the work a lot of times. So they want things done quickly. They don't want to send the dog away for a long period of training. They don't want to go through a 10-week long group class or something like that. They just like, well, why? because it's always, everything is about comparison now. Well, why would I do that when this trainer over here does it in 2 weeks? Right? They don't understand what it takes and what the end result is. All they see is, I need my dog trained. I'm not looking for this and this and this. I just need my dog trained. This person does it for 2 or 3 weeks and you do it for this. People are always going to go, not always, but if it's a selling point, right? You have to be able to explain to them why they need what they need. But so many people are just going to go for the shorter and quicker thing. So old school trainers, they didn't deal with that because I think if you go back, there wasn't that power of comparison, right?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have the internet, right? So if somebody said, you need to go see Christopher Upton, man, that guy knows what he's doing with dogs. Christopher Upton's going to tell you, this is how I train dogs. This is what it's going to take. This is how long it's going to take, or whatever. This is my system. And you're going to respect that and you're going to work with that. And nowadays people are just like, no, I don't have time for that. I'm not sending my dog away for that long or whatever. And they're just going to shop around for the next person. And then on the other side is trainers are just trying, so many trainers, not all, but so many trainers are just trying to shuffle dogs in, shuffle dogs out, and make as much money as they can as quickly as they can. And so they're feeding into that mindset.
Well, and they know what people are going to say because they've said it to them over and over, and then they tailor their program to get them, you know, to get these people everything that they want to hear. But when you move to
and what all falls away in this whole process from when both parties have the same mindset, what do we lose? We talked about it earlier. Standards.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You can't meet any kind of standard. You can't meet a good measurable standard if you're only going to be working with the dog for 2 or 3 weeks. It's just not going to happen.
Well, dude, and you understand, like, even basic biology and neurology, and that's what behavior is our neurons being built in a 28 to 45 day process of those just like those dendrites, like in the neurons, they don't touch each other, but they wire together, and it takes that long, right? And so the more understanding that you have, you know, and not only that, but we belong with these things in our pockets here, in the world of instant gratification, man, right? And not just can we have comparison, but we also have the experience of, I get what I want. I get the answer to my question right now. I get what I want right now at a push of a button. And we have to remember that it doesn't work that way with behavior. And I compare it sometimes to, especially when we're working with behavior rehabilitation, like drug rehabilitation, right?
Yeah.
And just imagine a drug addict that has gotten down this path of addiction, and they go to a 2-week program. How successful do you think that's going to be?
Yeah. Not going to be very successful at all. And yeah, Chris says you need repetition. I mean, and that's, you know, as you and I kind of, I think, fall in line with that same mindset. You know, you got to get the reps in, and that's where the clarity comes from the dog.
I say repetition is the mother of learning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And not only that, but then we do repetitions here, and then we generalize or prove the training in the real world incrementally, right? And we set up scenarios here. That's why I love the fact that I have so many dogs, and I hate the fact that I have so many dogs. I'll never have this many dogs ever again in my life, bro.
I feel you.
Right? But for the time being, I have a lot of scenarios that I can set up. Like we have this thing called the tunnel of love. Oh, what up? Jonas is here from the road, man. He just did the wild, or the ride for that wolf. Did you know about that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, he had a wolf that was tortured and killed, and he rode up to Wyoming and gave like $132,000 or something that he raised on the GoFundMe. Good on you, Jonah.
Wow. I wasn't even aware of it. That's cool.
Yeah, I just did a live stream with him, and dude, it is so cool doing these live streams because you start to realize, bro, I really like this guy.
Yeah.
Right. Or you just, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to capture this, is because like the conversations that we would have at professional events, or when we really know that we're passionate about something, and it's very similar. I mean, there's a way that we can bring harmony. Hogs for Hope. That's what it is. So it's Harley, Hogs
I'll
for Hope.
check it
What's up, Dylan? Um,
out.
yeah, yeah, and that's it. So, like flashcards, okay, like that's a learning aspect of. Can you expand a little bit on that, Denise, on the flashcards? Because what do you think about flashcards? About her comment, Mark?
I'm not really sure what she means exactly.
Well, remember when we were learning, you got kids too. Do you
Oh
still do
yeah,
the flashcards? Right.
right, right, right,
And
right,
you're
right.
like, what's the definition of this, or what's the capital of this state, right? And so,
Yeah, I mean it's simple repetition. You know, the first time you go through the deck, you're every single one you need the person to tell you what's on the back of the flashcard because you don't know. And the more times you go through the deck, you're like, I know that one. It's a memory game, right?
right. And when the first time you do it, guess what? You're frustrated,
Yeah.
right? And you're confused,
Yeah.
and it's not fun.
It's like I tell my group class students, I'm like, you know, week 1, you're gonna feel like you're doing nothing. Week 2, you're gonna feel like a total cluster. By the end of week 3, you're gonna start having enough repetition and you're gonna start thinking things are starting to make a whole lot of sense for me and the dog. But it takes that process. You know, it's not gonna happen in the first couple of days. And it's that same sort of thing. There's a lot of frustration, and some people just drop out because they're frustrated. But I warn them about it. I'm like, you're gonna get frustrated. Just trust the process and stick with the program. It's gonna become clear to you and the dog. I just did something kind of cool a minute ago. We were talking, and I've got my Tritronics collar here for. Where's the camera? For my poodle pointer is in the crate over here in front of my computer, and she started snoring like mad. And I'm thinking to myself, I wonder if everybody can hear her snoring. She sounds like an English bulldog over here. And I'm not going to correct her, right? And I'm not going to correct her for it. I didn't really want to wake her up and then have her go crazy and stuff. So all I did is I just hit the tone. Right.
Okay.
And the tone means nothing to her other than just what is that? Where is it coming from? Right. She's not conditioned to it for anything. But I just hit the little tone and the snoring just completely stopped. Right. Just interrupted her sleeping. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, my wife needs this on me. Right. We've got a sleep number bed with the flex fit, and she can press buttons on the remote and raise me up in the middle of the night to keep me to change my snoring pattern.
Yeah,
I'm thinking if I had a tone in my ear that could just break me out of that deep sleep that's causing me to snore. Anyway, it's totally off track, but I just thought it was funny.
Yeah, I was like, don't be giving my wife any ideas slapping an e-collar on me while I'm sleeping, dude, because that's like she recorded me the other night, and it cracked me up, bro. Like I was like, that is no way is that me? And she's like, yeah, welcome to my life, dude.
Yeah, I my wife probably needs to do that, but I don't really want. She tells me how bad it is, and I just like, no, it ain't happening. It ain't true. But she says it's really bad.
Tell her to record it, man. It's a kid. It's a hoot, dude. When you're like, whoa, I listened to it probably 20 times. I'm like, record me anytime because this is freaking awesome. I can't, because I'm just like, like in and out. I'm snoring, and which is, I mean, it's a trip, but yeah. And Joe Rogan has this thing about like he puts a thing on his tongue, I guess. Battle of the Beards, dude. I want to reiterate. Last time I talked to George or to Mark here, that my beard was way longer. Okay, so just so everybody knows. Well, we'll get back to the conversation about the time, right?
Yeah.
Working with the dog, and I tell people, man, this is something. Like, yeah, you're going to get frustrated. Some people have different coordination too, man, and they're, some people pick it up right away. Some people look like they're professionals, and some people I'm like, hey man, this might be something in the future. If you don't like what you're doing, you like, this is good. Your dog looks great. You look great.
I've had students like that, and they're now professional dog trainers that like I have literally told them, like, you've got a skill here. You pick this up quick and apply it, and you have a feel for it. And now they're training dogs professionally, and I love that.
Yeah, me too. I mean, and that's even with the kids. I'm like, you guys need to listen to him or you need, like, he's doing it right. This is like, there is something, there is kind of an intuitive, or like you said, like a feel for this, right? And I believe I have it. And do you think you have it? Do you think Amy has it? I mean, you're obviously doing it.
Yeah,
And
I believe so. Yeah, certainly.
Well,
And it's hard. It's something that you just can't really explain. It's just it's like you said, it's just a ability to see things and to feel things and to know what you need to do in the moment, and just something you gain through time, I guess.
Well, and as people start to put it together, man, you can start to see the stability. And
Mhm.
just like the Doberman I'm working with right now is telling you about, that when people try to do this on their own, um, we get a subset of behavior where they're like banging through this stuff. There's George.
Yep.
We're just talking about you, George. I'd love to do one of these with you here pretty soon. I'll reach out to you, George. And God bless you, brother. Love you. You guys, George has been training dogs longer than I've been alive, man. And once I get my laptop, he's on my top of my list. Pat is on the top of my list, and I might even swing by, come see you in person. Like, it's different when we're on the
Yeah,
computer screen here, but when we can do this live.
absolutely.
But anyway, what I was saying is the stability, right? And
Mhm.
people see these young trainers, just like we were talking about. What Chris's comment was, trainers today so soon to overload the dog's mindset. I see this, and I
Mhm.
see this from people. There's so much information that's available online, and there's so much curated content that people just want to get there.
Yeah.
And they get there, but they're on step 15 when they haven't gone through step 4, 5, 6, 7. Maybe they
Mhm.
did step 9 and then 10, 11, 12. Like, there's a huge gap in this learning process that they did not really cover for the dog to understand.
Mhm.
And so even though they get there, they get to a dog laying and staying or whatever, the dog's all over the place. The dog is not stable,
Mhm.
not present. Their center of awareness is down the street. Does that make sense, Mark?
Yeah, no, it certainly does. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's not it's what's the mindset of the dog when you feel like you've accomplished teaching and proofing a certain behavior that you're trying to, work with the dog on, versus just because the dog is doing it doesn't mean that that's the product that you want to put out. Is that what you're trying to get at? Like
Yeah, like
you got
there's
the
a
dog, you got the dog laying on place, but the dog's totally a ball of nerves at the moment, and they're not comfortable with what you're asking them to do.
yeah, and they look through you. They're
Yeah.
not looking to you. They're looking all, I mean, I don't know how to explain it. Or the dog is like, yeah, like you said, a bundle of nerves, like looking all around, like, and not, we don't have any semblance of focus. We don't have that concentration. We don't have that trust, I guess,
Mhm.
of like, you're who I want to listen to,
Yeah. Hmm.
right?
Right.
And I see that when people get out of the house and with pet dog trainer or pet dog people, that's one of the first things I'm letting them know, because I come into a situation, you just kind of observe. And a lot of this, I need to do group classes, man. Like that, we can talk about. I'm gonna write this down too, because we need to really talk about the value, because I think group classes are one of the most valuable ways that you can train a dog.
Hmm. Yep.
And we'll get there. But when I come into a situation, I'm mostly doing private trainings,
Yeah.
right? And so I'm watching the person with their dog. I tell them, just act like I am one of your guests. Let me see how you deal with this stuff, right? And then we'll sit down, and it's basically an assessment, right?
Yeah.
Talk about the options that we can do. I barely do board and trains. I accept like the 2 or 3 maybe a summer.
Hmm.
And so it's on them, and we can work together. um, and then I give them a plan of action. um, but I wish I had a group class.
Yeah.
And what are the advantage of having a group class?
Yeah. Well, first of all, don't wish, make it happen.
Oh, I will, man. Like
And I'll
I
tell
got
you why, and I'll tell
yeah.
you why. Number one,
Thanks,
there's several
Mark.
reasons. Is I mean, how many people in your area are doing group classes that you would say with confidence that the owners are getting results at the end of the class?
I'm not too sure, man.
Yeah,
Not too
it's kind of
many.
nationwide. You don't see a lot of that anymore. People have moved away from group classes. Those that are doing group classes are your box stores, your dog obedience clubs, your AKC dog obedience clubs and stuff. And they're always, those are great places to start. And if you're going to compete, then dog obedience club is probably a great place to be in. But your box stores, I'm not really knocking them. It's a great place to start. But every dog that comes out of there is the same. I hear the same exact thing from the owner. I was like, well, as long as I have food, right? I mean, because there's no aversives basically. Well, there are. They don't want to call it what it is, but the leash on the dog does an aversive. But they're not allowed to do any corrections and stuff like that. And difficult dogs have to leave. So I think that, especially speaking to like the younger trainers that are getting into training, is they think group classes are a waste. They don't think it puts out good training. They don't think you can get results in a group class. It's too distracting of an environment. And they also don't think that you can make money in group classes. They think you got to do board and trains to be able to earn an income in dog training. And that is completely true. And I can tell you right now, when you get George Cockrell on live, you have that conversation with him and he'll tell you the numbers because he spent decades doing, many group classes a week, and he'll tell you all about it. I had a phone conversation with him years ago about this very thing. But the thing with group classes is you got to have a system that you can replicate class after class that gives people structure on what to do, because they don't have the one-on-one attention they get in a private lesson. Okay. So
Mhm.
they might be one of 8 or 10 or 12 people in the class. You're going to answer their questions and stuff like that, of course, but they don't have the one-on-one tension. So they have to have clear instruction on what to do the 6 days of the week that they don't see you. Every day, they got to know what to do every single day. And in what I do is they have to provide me video homework a couple times a week.
Mm.
They have to provide me homework. They hold me accountable because they pay me, right? And I hold them accountable to do the work. And what I always tell people is if you sign up for a group class with me, it's the lowest cost item that I have available for dog training. But
Right.
it takes the biggest amount of commitment out of everything that I have,
Interesting.
because I'm not doing the work for you. I'm coaching you how to do it. And you're one of a number of people in the class. So you have to be fully committed to the process. So I tell people, don't sign up for it if you just chose this because it's the cheapest thing I offer, because you'll be one of the people who probably doesn't do really well in the class, right?
Yeah.
Um, and then my group classes too, like it's not a doggy play party and all that kind of stuff. I don't allow dogs to say hello to anybody, or we don't do
Right.
any of that stuff. It's all about safety. So, I have dogs that come in. Every class has got a handful of dogs that are reactive dogs, whatever term you want to
Of
use,
course.
reactive, aggressive, whatever. But, the only dogs that I typically won't take into a group class are dogs that show like have a history of bad human
Right.
aggression.
Right.
But
Right.
or they've killed another dog or something like that. If they're that bad, I'll put them in a private lesson instead.
Yeah.
But
Serious dogs.
other than that, that's how we do it. And it's giving them the group classes, it's giving them a plan to follow every single day, versus just saying, hey, I just want you to work on sit and loose leash walking and good luck with it, and I'll see you next week. It's telling them, this is how many reps I need you to do of this before you move on to the next day, and the next day is going to be a different thing, and a certain amount of reps that I want you to do of this, and certain parts of the week I want load and no distraction while you're teaching the dog. By the middle of the week, I want to see some more moderate level distraction being added. So this gets the dog owner starting to think like a trainer and starting to think, okay, I've got to add some things into the environment, So they might
Yes.
be working in their driveway or inside the house on day one, and then by the middle of the week, they're working in their neighborhood, and then by close of the end of that week, they might be taking field trips to Lowe's and doing their training there.
Yep.
But it's helping them understand the phase of the teaching process each week of when you're okay to start adding in that stuff. Because what I always tell them is once the dog starts to learn what it is that you want them to do, and they're starting to show you that they can do it, then every training session should be set up in a way where you're challenging the dog. But you're challenging the dog in a way where the outcome is you're trying to set it up where they're going to be successful, not fail. Right? Because we always know we want to end on a win.
Yes.
So, but we don't want it to become so easy that it's not realistic to what they really need.
That's right. Right. And when you fail, it's okay too. Like when that dog goes and gets a solid correction on, especially on a long line or something like that, let it mean something. That's what I tell people as well. Let this be meaningful to that dog. Don't hop in and if it looks like shit, or if you feel bad or whatever, let it hold weight. Let this be meaningful to that animal, because they're the ones that are learning in this situation. And so, like, even though we want to set up for successes, it's important to realize that, yeah, we're going to encounter some failures. We're going to encounter some times, because we are kind of flirting with that threshold of learning and introducing to the dogs that are introducing the dog to scenarios and stimulus that they have not experienced. And we might think that we know how they're going to respond. But sometimes that's not necessarily the case. And so being prepared, and that's that part of that preparation. And if this happens, this is what we do. And that's the important part of starting in the environment where we can show the dog what we do. And so when we start to up the stimulus, start to up the distractions, we're still doing what we initially showed the dog what we're going to do in the environment void of all these distractions. And so they can fall back and be like, oh yeah, this is what we're doing. Right. And so, and go ahead.
So I always tell my students in group classes that the hardest day of the week is the day that you're here in front of me, not because of me, but because this environment. Where else are you going to go through the week where you're going to be in a building where everything's going to echo, and you're going to be in here with like 8 other dogs, and there's going to be barking and whining and other people and all kinds of stuff? It causes a lot of stress for the dogs. So what I'm telling people is like, you've got to build yourself up through the week to prepare yourself. So when they actually come to class is the test. How well did you prepare yourself during those 6 days of instructions? When they come into class, it shows, and we're not expecting perfection from any of these people, because they're not professional dog trainers or anything. But when they show up to class, it can be frustrating for them, but I'm always telling them your weaknesses were brought to the surface. So now you know what you need to work on this next week. I didn't have to tell you. It's the environment. It's you got to see where you're struggling. What are you struggling with? And some dogs have a fear issue and they're afraid of moving around, and other dogs are overly, impulsive and reactive and stuff like that. And they start learning what they need to work on. So then the next week they go back to the drawing board and they think, okay, I need to do what he said. I need to be strategically adding in the right sort of triggers into my training, so I'm prepared more the next week. And I don't know, it works for us. And one of the things that I love about group classes is I live in a very rural area. We get clients from all over, but the group classes are something that is economically affordable for the average person that owns a dog. And I love to have that available for people. Like, I don't want every single thing that I sell cost over $1,000. You know what I mean? Like, I want there to be a service that I can provide, that I can help people, that if they just got the dog from the shelter and they don't have a lot of money, but they can spend $400 or whatever on a group class, then I want to be that outlet for them, versus them spending $200 on a group class for somewhere else that gives them no results. Right.
Right. Or might even mess up the communication that they have with their dog. And it can happen where you kind of screw up the dog. You make them a little bit more nervy.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, if you try to do this too quickly, if you try to, you know, like Chris was saying, to so soon to overload the dog's mindset. And then, oh, Linda, what up, Linda? Got a shout out to the,
Hey, Linda.
what's up? Linda's awesome. And you can tell when people don't do the work. I like the idea of the video homework. What do you, and shaming clients, man? I never shame my clients. What do you, I mean, what do you do when people don't send the video homework, when it's obvious maybe they're not doing the work at home? How do you handle that, Mark?
It can be tough. It depends. You know, I don't really give absolutes on how I handle it, because I think I'll deal with it a little differently based on the personality of the person
Right.
that I'm working with, right? But I usually, if let's say an entire week goes by, and what I do is every group class I put on has a closed Facebook group just for those students, and that's how we share the videos and communicate throughout the week. And if an entire week goes by and a certain client has not posted any homework videos at all, I might send them a private message, you know, and just say, hey, what's going on? Are you working with your dog? I haven't seen anything. But in my orientation, I think the biggest thing is, in my orientation, on the first night, there's no dogs present on the first night of class. And I go over everything with them, and I tell them what my expectations are of them on the very first night. And I basically tell them video homework is a requirement. Like, you don't have to be a video editor. You don't have to put up 10. All I need to see is like 1 or 2 minutes of your work once or twice a week. That's all I need to see. And I don't want to see perfect work. I want to see where you're messing up, because I want to be able to try and help you through the week. I don't want you doing this. I don't want you doing the wrong thing for 6 days when I could have helped you at the beginning of the week, because sometimes they don't understand the instructions, and then I can help them, you know. But that comes down to the thing too, is when people will say, my dog's just not getting it. You know, we're not. And then I say, well, I haven't seen any work from you. You haven't posted any homework videos. So I can certainly help you, but I have to see the work. If, you know, it's just like dog training, right? If I don't see the work, I don't know if you're any good. And if the client's not showing me the work, then I have no idea if, one, they're doing it at all, or if they're doing it the way that I've instructed. And what they'll tell me is, a lot of times they'll be embarrassed and they'll send me like a private message and just say, hey, I got a question. This is going wrong. This is going wrong. And I'll basically tell them, I say, I'm not trying to be a dick, but you need to video what's going on, because all my years of experience in doing this, what you see and what you're typing out and telling me, I'm going to see something different.
Yes.
Right. And I said, that's not trying to be condescending to them, but it's just that people describe dog behavior and how they're responding to what they're doing completely different from what we see. You know, we're going to look at it and we're like, I know exactly what's going wrong. I know what we need to change. I want to see the video. Right. And so I just try to get people committed. And I would say that 90% of my group class students buy into the program, and they actually like the videos. They get to see it puts a little bit of peer pressure on them. They get to see the other students that are struggling, and also the ones that are doing really well. So if they start to see one of the other students is like, their dog's doing super good, they're going to be like, I need to get off my phone. I need to go outside and do the reps that I was supposed to do today, because I'm seeing all these students and like, I'm going to fall behind. Right. Yeah. So does it work for everybody? No. But for those that need a little kick in the butt, it works really well. And I'm just blunt with them. I'm like, you know, you paid me. I'm here to help you. You paid me to instruct you. Take my instruction and go with it. You know, don't try to do it your own way. Don't try to tell me that and a lot of people will not put the videos up, and then come to class, and it's 100% obvious that they're the one that hasn't been working with their dog.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious. They don't realize how obvious it is to see. Like yeah, you haven't done shit.
Yeah. And I mean, and so it becomes apparent to them too. Like, and then that's one of those beautiful things. I don't have to call that person out. Say, well, this is what you get for not doing the work. This is what you get for not putting any homework videos up. They get to look around the room and they go, damn, if I had just put the work in. It's just like anything in life, right? You can look at somebody else and be jealous, Look how successful this person is. Yeah, they've been busting their ass.
That's what I do when I look at you and see your beard. I'm just like, well, and that's it, man. It's like, and they're showing up, dude. Like they're there.
Yeah.
Right. Like why shame them? I don't ever shame people, man. Like, yeah, it's pretty obvious. Like, but you got some slack to reel in here.
Mm-hmm.
Get to work, and not only that, but they're like, oh man, that looks good.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I want. And dude, my freaking bubble. That's what I want. And some people want that precision. Some people want that flashy dog. Some people just want a dog that they can chill and hang out with, and that's an important aspect to understand too, right?
That is a really, and I know that I have some students in class that, like, I always, the first night I do a demo with one of my dogs, and I just show them exactly what it is that we're going to train their dog to do. And it's basically the beginner novice routine of AKC. Okay. So I'll do that with one of my dogs. And then I'm like, all right, who here thinks they're going to be able to get their dogs to do this at the end of 6 weeks? And most of them won't raise their hand. And I'm like, I love it when the ones that do raise their hand, because I already know this is someone who's committed. They're going to put forth the effort to get it done. And there's the people, like you said, there's the people who sign up for class and they're like, look, I just want my dog to stop pulling. I don't care about all this other stuff, right? And then you get the people who are like, I'm not a professional dog trainer, but I want my dog to be like the way Mark's just was. Like, I want it to perform like that.
Yeah, right? You can just see them, their eyes just like, whoa, I never knew. I was like that, bro.
I was too.
Yeah.
My first basic observation of dog training was I attended a group class. And before I went and became a trainer and stuff, and this guy had a German Shepherd, and there was like probably 10 dogs in the class. And I remember there was an Akita in that class that was human aggressive and actually bit one of the trainers in the hand. And I still remember that day. But during all of this chaos and everything that was going on, this guy's German Shepherd was in a downstay laying in the corner during the entire class. I didn't need to see healing between the legs. I didn't need to see anything flashy. I saw that and I was like, dude, that's so impressive. Like, how does he have that kind of control on that dog? That dog is just so chill over there. And it wasn't an old dog, and it was a working line German Shepherd, right? Turned out the guy, he did IGP while it was Schutzen back then. And I was so impressed by that. And I don't know where I was going with that, but that right there was the spark for me. I was training a chocolate lab at the time that I had bought for my girlfriend. Okay. I was 20 at the time. I bought it for her. It lived at her house. She was in college. I had to go over her house every day and feed and take care of the dog because I didn't want to put that responsibility on her mother. So it was basically my dog living at somebody else's house, and I had to go take care of it every day. So I took the dog for walks, and I put it through a group obedience class, and I started training the dog. And that's how I got my start, and that's when I was like, after that, and seeing that guy's obedient German Shepherd, I was like, dude, how do I become you?
I want that.
I want that. But that's the thing. You get people out here just like me that go through a group class with a dog trainer, and they're like, I want my dog just like what that trainer's got. And they're going to every day go the extra bit to do that work. But realistically, that's not everybody. And we know that.
Totally. And we need to realize that as pet dog trainers, and that's okay. And that's okay, man. Like, I don't want to clone if this is something that you don't want, because dude, it takes work, right? And it takes upkeep. It takes, you have to put in the steps. And some people, like the people that really just want a cool dog, after week 4, I'm like, the week 5, I'm just like, where'd so-and-so go? And then week 6, they might come in or something like that. But that's because we've covered the basics of loose leash walking, sit down, stand, stay. And literally that's all they wanted, man. And I'm like, stick around, because we're going to start eliminating the leash. We're going to start to show you how you can get a good recall at the end here. And so they might, and so I see that sometimes around week 4, week 5, maybe week 6 and 7, they might, and I'll call them, or just kind of be like, hey, Sticker, what's going on? Everything okay? And but you see that, like, some people are really committed,
Mm-hmm.
some people not so much, and that's okay. Like, but
yeah, and sometimes sometimes you know it almost right away, and then other times you know it at the end of that first course, and you get done, and the people are like, "What's next?"
yeah,
Right? And that's when I'm like, "Wonderful. This person wants to do more with their dog. They want to continue to keep going." And sometimes I don't have a what's next. You know what I mean? For some
right.
people, because they're so motivated and so eager. They're like, I'm like, I don't have another program for you. You're doing great. You've gone through all the training things that I offer. So I'm like, just repeat them again for free, and they do. And then they run back through it and they're better than they ever were before, because now they know the system and they know how to go through it. And it's just a proving ground for them and their dog. And I
Well,
love when I have students like that too, because then they're an example for all the other students. And I can look at this person and say, that dog right there was reactive to every dog in the class the first time she went through, and look at it now.
yeah, you can do this too.
Yep.
And then we'll get to I got a couple questions here too. What do you do when people bring, so you said on the first night you don't allow dogs. What do you do when people bring dogs?
Oh, I only had that happen one time.
Okay.
Only one time, because I communicate with them like crazy. And so what I do is, usually the class is usually full a good week before it actually starts. I get everybody into the Facebook group, and then I start communicating with them before they ever come to class. Okay.
Okay.
And I'll put a post up and I'll say, hey, first night of class is coming up. And I'll put in capital letters, no dogs, leave them at home the first night. This is all about your instruction the first night. And I put in there at the bottom of it, I'm like, when you get done reading this, you need to comment that you've received this. And so if I get 8 people in a class and I get one person who has never commented on it, I'm texting them or I'm calling them and I'm saying, hey, just want to remind you, you didn't comment on that. Don't bring the dog. Because I had it happen one time. Somebody showed up and they brought the dog, and it was embarrassing for them because they're the only one to show up with their dog. And of course their dog was really obnoxious and out of control, and it was disturbing for the whole class. So now I make sure I go out of my way to make sure that they don't.
Okay.
And hindsight, looking at it, that person never did any homework, never turned in I only have had 2 people in all my group classes that I've ever said, we're done. And she was one of them, because she never turned in any homework assignments. It was always an excuse. And every week she would come to class, the dog was completely out of control. You could tell she wasn't working with it, and she wouldn't show me any of the work. So I excused her from the class. And when I excuse people from the class, there's a catch to that, right? Because I don't give them their money back. But when I excuse them from the class, they have access to the online portion of the course, just like an online student only would have. So they're still getting all my instruction, all my training videos. They just don't come to the physical location, and because your dog's out of control, you're not doing the work. So that person, it was the writing was on the wall, right? Because they got all the communication to not bring the dog on the first night, and then bring the dog on the first night, and then again got all the instruction about you have to do the videos, weren't doing it. You know what I mean? So it was just one of those people that's what you were going to get out of them. Unfortunately, I had to remove them from the class.
Well, that's a good indicator. Didn't bring the dog on the first day, though, like I instructed. And we've got a comment: dog training by proxy. Okay. LOL, intrigued. I think that he's talking about don't bring your dog on the first day. And that's because, why don't you bring your dog on the first day, Mark?
Oh, yeah. Well, number one is, if you've never taught a group class, I'll just put it this way. If somebody has never taught a group class, the first night of group class when the dogs are there is pure chaos. People don't know how to handle a leash. You don't know if the equipment on their dog is secure and safe, because they're showing up to your place with their leash, their collar,
their harness,
their flexi. Okay. You have to realize, and I say this, I say this not as an insult, but people will show up completely ignorant to how they should be prepared for a group class. Okay. So and not only that, I get people all the time that sign up for my class. And like, I'm not really sure. My dog is going to be I'm afraid my dog is going to be a total distraction for everybody in the class.
Yes.
And I'm like, well, don't worry about it, because the first night you're not bringing your dog anyway, right? And that relieves everybody. They realize, and it also allows me to make them understand when they come in for the orientation, guess what? You're the biggest factor in this, not the dog, right? So I have to get through to you before I can have you get through to your dog. And so I get to spend that first, it's an hour and a half long orientation where I issue their equipment so they all have the same stuff. I go over the homework, assign how the homework's done. I do a presentation of what week 1 work is going to look like. I do a demonstration with my dog of what the training program is going to hope to achieve for them. And so, can I do all that stuff while they are fighting with the dog at the end of their leash, barking, whining, climbing up on all over them? Are they going to be able to listen to me? Nope. They will hear nothing I say if their dogs come to class on the first night.
Yeah, they won't be present. Yeah,
they will not be present. They'll be stressed out, and they'll be like, why did I even sign up for this? My dog is a friggin' lunatic. So instead, I work on them that first night, and then they spend the next 6 days working on the assignment that I gave them. So when they come back the next week, they have a dog that is under a little bit more control when they actually come into the building with all the dogs.
And I'm assuming that Linda's got to go. Hey, Linda, let me do your comment real quick. I had a guy today that I haven't seen in a month. We're at lesson 4. He actually did the work based on the material and video tutorials we had provided. And his hens dog is performing well beyond the people I see a week after week. I was thrilled to see his effort. I wish they all were like, amen. I wish they all were like that. Linda's got to run. Love you, Linda.
Bye, Linda. We talk all the time.
Great afternoon. Yes, she is, man. That's another one I'm going to be doing in person on my list of people to come and meet. Now, when you do the first class, and then I'm assuming that you issue a long line, and then is that where you do? And then do you have them come back on a 6-foot?
Yeah. So they get the long line, they get a slip chain, and then they get a 6-foot leash from me. And I basically tell them, take that slip. I take the 6-foot leash that I gave you and go put it in a drawer somewhere, because you're not going to use it the whole first week. Right.
Okay.
And then we just do all the long line work for a full week and explain them how to do all that. And then when they come back in the next week, the long line never comes to class after that, because we're not getting to an off leash portion in this. So it's just beginner novice level. And so they come in with the 6-foot leash. There's parts that the long line comes into play at their training at home.
Right.
But not in the building.
Well, and then you would do a video of them doing the long line and then the readiness test for the long line before.
Yeah. So I don't actually have them do the readiness tests anymore at home. And because by the time day 6 comes along and they're supposed to do the readiness tests, no matter how good of instructions I give on how the test should be set up, the test is never set up the way that I want it. So they're never, and then by the time, so sometimes they're getting off of work at 6 o'clock at night on the night before the night the test is due. Okay.
Right.
And so they'll video it and they'll put the test up. And I'm like, this test is not showing me anything because you didn't set it up properly. It's too late for them to redo it. And they got to go to work the next day and then come to class. So I stopped doing the readiness test for my group classes. The readiness test is done in class. Okay. So it's a little bit differently than it would have been done like when you did ISTA and I did it as well. It's a little differently than that, but I'm able to see, and it's a group class. So we're moving on. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have time to say you need to stay in this format for the next week and do long line for another week, because we all have to move on in the group class, versus if it's a private lesson, I'm just like, we're going to stay at this level until we're ready to move on. Right. Yep. We'll just add lessons. But with a group, I'm not able to do that. But I will tell the person, I want you to do a few more days of long line work, and you can start this other stuff too. But you need to do a little of this more. And, it just kind of depends. You get a feel for it, what the dog needs, and you tell them to spend a little bit extra time. And as the course goes on, they have an ability to make up time and, make up ground.
Yep. We got a lot of time. So I'm going to go back to the comments here. What's 8x4? What's that? Okay. The reason you know so fast because repetition, like flashcards in school. Maybe I'm old. We're all getting old, Denise.
No, that's good.
Eye contact for the right reason, right? And
Mhm.
so, the center of awareness that we were talking about earlier. Um, Dylan asks, is it usually a good idea to ask the client up front what their budget for training might be?
I do. I
Me
do.
too.
I mean, I basically people always get confused because I offer a lot of different programs and I have several different private lesson programs. I have group classes and board and train and day training and they get overloaded. They're like, you need to help me. I can't figure out what I'm supposed to choose. And then I just basically say, well, it's going to come down to a number of things. It's going to come down to your budget, at your schedule, you know, and then like your time commitment that you can put into the training. And so I usually start off with schedule because if somebody because we only do private lessons during weekday hours. So if they're like, well, there's no way I can make it to a private lesson. All right, so we just wipe that off the table. You know, you got group classes or you have like board and train, you know.
Right.
And if they're like, well, I can't afford your board and train. I'm like, okay, well then I have group class. It's perfect for you. You can come in the evening on Tuesday nights and do the group class. So I don't ask them what their budget is. I just ask them, you know, if you don't want to discuss board and train because that's out of your budget, that's perfectly fine. I've got something else for you.
Yeah. And people don't realize like the cost of board and train is it's a commitment for us, right? And it takes time and pulls our time away from our other dogs and our other clients
And
and
family,
and family, right? And
it's
the
24/7 care.
dude, that's what I was just gonna say. 24/7 gig, man. And I charge $4,500 starting for my
Mhm.
board and trains, right? That's just starting and
Yeah.
all the way up, depending on what we're dealing with, how long we need to keep your dog. And I don't really have any guarantees. Like it's gonna take we're gonna work on this stuff, but absolutely this is you're gonna have homework. And just like I was talking about, especially if we're working with like rehabilitation,
Mhm.
while the dog's with me, I need you to make some changes. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna have some equipment that I'm gonna send the dog home with, and I'm gonna be working with you. I do 3 private trainings with the board and train,
Mhm.
and then sometimes I'll have the dog go home for a week or 2 and then come back to me again for a week,
Mhm.
right? To just kind of polish up or just make sure that we're really knowledgeable about what the expectations are. But even after that, man, like the dog can, if you don't make changes, the dog can revert back to the old behavior. You have to understand what got you here and understand how to move forward here on out. And then when I take them home, I'm letting them handle that dog. And that's the other aspect of this is like a lot of trainers can make it happen all day long, but if you cannot legislate, get that person to do the same thing, then I don't know if you're really providing a good service that's going to be applicable for their life,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, certainly.
And I understand too when I'm bringing the dog home, the first the first time that dog's going to be excited, they're going to be excited. Um, and so we account for that as well. Sometimes I might have them. That's why I like the idea of a day train where I take them, let the dog go home on the weekends or something like that.
Mhm.
And I've done that a few times, and it's been successful.
Yeah.
Is
I
that
wish
what
I
you?
did more of that. I really wish it was, but I'm in such a rural area that it's hard for people to drop off and pick up dogs daily and stuff for them because of where we are. But otherwise, I would do a lot of those. I got one coming in next week. It's a little corgi puppy, and that's going to be fun.
Yeah, the younger they are, the better, man. And not
Yeah.
only that, but I was going to say, like, videotaping is so important. Like the video
Mhm.
homework, I understand why, and that's whenever people do. I do Zoom lessons, man, and I never thought that I'd be. I always poo-pooed them before the pandemic, and then I started doing them, and the technology is good, man.
So
Like, and
how
you
are
can.
you doing those? Like how is that what's that look like? What's the setup like look like?
So I talked to them about. Well, I mean, they have to send me videos,
Okay. So
and
they
then
send you videos ahead of time and you look at that stuff and then you go
yes.
online and consult with them on what they need to do.
Yep, yep, and especially for that long line, I'm like and you can see, dude, you have the wrong expectation of what this lesson is all about,
Mhm.
right? And you're letting that dog, get way too close to that distraction. You're not turning, and now because I can like literally roll the split seconds of their behavior. So they're walking, and I'm like, you should have turned. Or I'm like, tell me when you think you should turn around.
Mhm.
and then I'll look at the video like, so you told me to turn around, and I'll pause it, and I was like, here's where I think you should turn around.
Yeah.
And we go way back
Yeah.
to point 8, right? And they're like, oh, got it, and but it's not, I mean, it's not for aggression, it's not for certain cases, and especially if I have met them for a couple private trainings,
Mm-hmm.
then it's so much more helpful because then I know them, I know their dog, I know their environment, and then we can kind of go from
They can
there.
there. Yeah.
Right, supplementing some Zooms because I'm out in a rural area too, or some people are far away, and I
Yeah.
even have people like in Idaho where I fly out there to work with them and their dogs, and so it's easy to do a Zoom check-in, to go over the information, and it just depends on the people and what we're working with and their dog too.
Sure. No, that's great. Yeah. I've done similar. It's not been like a private lessons Zoom type of a thing, but I have done similar type of thing. I probably need to do a little bit more of it because it's like a lot of things, right? It's for certain people, it's a very successful way for them to train. I've had some online students that have done better than students that are in front of me. And I
Yep.
think it's because for some people, they're working harder at it. I don't, for whatever reason. And then others don't put forth the work at all when they're an online student. It's just hard. That's my experience, at least.
Well, and the other thing, Mark, is I record it. I
Yeah.
record the Zoom session, and I'm like, you need to revisit this as much as you need to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And then that's where that's helpful too, because then they can watch it at their leisure. And not only that, but I can post up videos or show them videos of me with my dogs
Mm-hmm.
and show them, here's what we need to look for. And then I can walk them through the steps of a readiness test that I've done in the past or something like that. And then they can ask me all about it, like the tunnel of love or stuff like that, where they can set up, different distractions that they can control the environment as well. So, Derek Cruz says, good midday, gentlemen. Good Kraus. I've really enjoyed day trains, especially for straightforward dogs. Yeah, it doesn't work for every dog.
Yeah.
And day train, I love the day train. I'm in the city though, so yeah, it depends on location and your setup and the dog and the people too, right? And understanding, look, you're paying me some money for this. It's your dog at the end of the day. That's what I tell them. Like, this is your dog. They're like, can I have my dog sleep on the bed? Can my dog do this? And I'm like, well, it's your dog. You can do whatever you want with your dog, but here's what I do with my dogs.
It's exactly the way that I put it. I say, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to tell you what I do.
Yeah.
And what, this is what works for me,
Yeah. And take away what you will.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, this is an esoteric kind of thing where, I know people get dogs for a number of reasons, and I have dogs. I love them. I have one right here. That's my podcast assistant every day. Here, come here. Let's say hi. And she's getting old, man. Oh, excuse me. Sorry. Got your leg caught up in my pocket there. There she is.
Hello.
And she's getting a little gray eyebrows.
Mm-hmm.
But now she's starting to sleep right on the side of the bed with me. And she never really did that before. She'd always be out in her crate.
Yeah, we've got my wife's Malinois is, I think she's 9 years old now. And I mean, up until I guess the first 7 years of her life, everything was like, no, you're laying on the floor, you're laying on the pet cot, you're in the crate. Everything was very structured. And now at her elderly age, we're like, the couch is yours. You can just, I'm not the couch is yours, but she gets up on the couch. We tell her place and we just point to the couch. She just jumps up and she sleeps on the couch almost all day.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the moment I say off, there's no hesitation. She gets up and she leaves, but she's earned that now, and you have that kind of control, but it takes those years of micromanaging the dog to the point where you can have that flexibility where the dog understands that I can allow you this luxury, but I can, with one word, tell you to remove yourself from it, and you'll do it,
Well, Well, that comes with a lifetime of training, and they get retired, man. You know, it's just like once I get a certain age, then it's like you got the easy life now, dude.
Yeah.
And it kinda, you know, there's still rules, boundaries, and
Sure.
structure, but yeah, there's a
Too
lot
late.
more
Yeah,
leniency.
you get a lot more laid back with them at a certain age, you know? You just kinda like, you know,
Yeah, they got
it's like how I hope people will treat me.
yeah, me
You
too,
know what I
dude.
mean? Take it easy on me, I'm getting older.
Yeah, whenever I'm driving behind somebody, they're in the left lane about 20 miles below the speed limit, I'm like, "What the heck?" And then I go up, see they're 80 years old, I'm like, "Alright,
Right,
you're
right.
good, man."
Yeah,
Like, that's just the way it is, man, as we start to sunset and our dogs do the same thing, so
sure.
awesome, brother. Well, let me show you your website here. What is it? Canine Command?
Yeah, caninecommand.com.
Okay, let's see if I can. Well, dude, I wanted to show. Actually, I have this pulled up here. Let's do this. I wanted to find AKC obedience, just one that I can show people just real quick because I think that people it might be valuable. And I do you ever have people like Google AKC obedience?
Mhm.
Oh, there's a mal,
Wow.
little mal there. So, and this is what I show them is like, look, this is just like we do a little demo with our dogs. And
Mhm.
I just pulled this up random. Um, I don't know, Kelly Van Newell, but this is what we're talking about. Um, that's a nice heel, nice
Mhm.
prancy paws.
Looks very nice.
Do you set up this in your place at all? Do you get people a ribbon at all or
No, no, I mean, they just get a completion certificate for the course and stuff. We
okay.
do what we do though in the final night is we do like a fun run of what the beginner novice test would be. And, you know, and I do exactly what the AKC judge would do, and then I give them a little critique at the end of it. You know, here's some areas. Most of the stuff's obvious to them, but like areas to improve on as we go forward. You know.
Oh, so the dog down just now. I don't know if that judge saw that. Oh wait, maybe she gave him a break. So so the standards, let's go over the standards of what we're looking for at AKC novice level. Do you want to go over it?
Yeah, well, novice level, you've got on leash healing as well as off leash healing. And she's demonstrating the figure eight here, which is probably one of my weaknesses with most of my dogs. That's a harder exercise than it looks. To have the dog stay at the right cadence in the right position. Um, and so that's where she's at right now. And I believe right after this, she'll be taking the leash off. And
I love that judge's shirt, man. You have one like that, I think. I saw it.
it's like straight out of the 70s. Yeah.
So yeah,
Leash now, everything from this point forward is off leash. And
and flat collar too. That's the other aspect too.
yeah,
Is
flat or the if you've trained with a choke chain, the dog can wear the choke chain in the ring, and which is what I would always do. But no prongs, no e-collars or anything like that.
stand for exam. Dog took a couple steps
Yeah.
there. But what's a stand for exam, Mark?
Well, just what you see there, but the dog shouldn't have moved its feet and shouldn't be nuzzling forward to like that right there.
Right.
You know. So the dog's supposed to hold that position. It's a stay. It's a stay, but it's in the standing position. And it's a much harder exercise than people think.
Yep. Well, and dogs need to be examined by veterinarians. They need to be strangers groomed. Where this is applicable. All this stuff is dang
Yeah. So
is applicable.
you see with this dog, her on leash healing looked really nice, but the dog gets in quite a state of arousal off leash there at the beginning. So,
When she ran.
yeah,
So you have the dog's intensity kind of
but this
met
looks good. That looks really nice.
I like the prancy paws, bro.
Yeah.
And it's low.
So, you know, you're looking at changes of pace without there's no commands to tell the dog that there's a change of pace. So what do we need? We need an attentive dog, right? It's got to be following that left leg and matching your pace and the automatic sit.
Yeah, so every time you stop, the dog needs to sit without being prompted.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna do a stay and a recall. Oh wait, what's he doing?
Yeah.
Finish? I don't know what that was, but whatever.
Yeah.
Finish is not in a novice.
Yeah, I didn't know it is in the novice. It's not in the beginner novice. So
Oh, okay.
she should be doing the recall now.
Yep.
I sometimes forget the order of the exercises.
Well, and then when we do the recall, now watch where the dog goes, you guys. Boom.
Yep. So you want
Yep.
to straight sit in front and then call the dog to the heel position. It doesn't matter how the dog gets there, if it goes around you or does a flip finish, as long as the dog gets into the heel position.
I personally like the flip finish, just so you guys know.
Yeah, I do too.
It's kind of snazzy.
Sure
And then we're
is.
gonna do it down, I believe. Maybe down
So this
stay.
will be is it freezing up? This is new in the novice. They added this a couple years ago where it's a sit stay and you go retrieve your leash from the steward, come back and leash the dog back up. And so there'll also be a sit stay and a down stay, but those are done as a separate exercise in a group with all the other competitors.
Okay, cool. I didn't know this, man. There we go. I just learned that. I haven't done and so now they're doing the down stay and down stay with. Okay,
So
man. I actually love that.
beginner novice, you'll do a sit stay in the ring where you walk all the way around the ring. It's actually harder than this. This is elementary because this is nothing more than a 6-foot sit stay. And of course, years ago, and this is the gripe of a lot of people that have been doing this stuff for a long time. Years ago, this was off leash.
Right.
And then they also did out of sight stays where the dog would be in the stay and you would leave the ring completely and the dog couldn't see you. But everybody got worried because they were afraid dogs were going to get into dog fights and
dogs did get into dog fights.
Oh yeah, there were, but a lot of the reason why that happened was training methods started changing and a lot of the clubs were going to a more of a force-free approach to training. And so dogs didn't have a lot of discipline in the stay. They were doing a stay purely for positive reinforcement, which great positive reinforcement is great. But these dogs, they'd get bored. Their owner wasn't present. They weren't getting that reinforcement that they wanted, and the discipline wasn't there. So the dogs were like, I'm going to go jump on this other dog because that's more reinforcing for me at the moment.
Yeah, some of us like to fight, John says.
So it's a much safer environment, but they lowered the standard is what they did. They lowered the standard.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Yep, by the 6-foot tether and
but the AKC obedience is dying off very slowly. There's not as many people interested in it. So AKC is about making some money. And so they try to adjust things to attract more people and keep more people involved in the sport. So,
well, dude, if they made this obedience a prerequisite for the agility, for the rally, for all that stuff, like it used to be in the early 90s, right? Then I think that they would see an uptick in the people doing the obedience work too. We always add the retrieve your leash to the end of our class, students, okay? Because of and then so Dylan wants to know if Joel Silverman's alternative collar can be used in lieu of a choke chain. Do you know Joel Silverman at all, Mark?
Yeah, I know him and I know the collar that he's talking about. I have never used it. I personally do not feel like it would be as effective for the method and the approach that I take to training. That's not a knock on his collar. I just don't feel like it would work as well in the system that I'm using.
I agree. I mean, I love his collar too, but it's more of a martingale system. There we go.
Yep.
So, but yeah, there's a reason why. Let me put our mugs up here close. There's a reason why we use the chain. There's one pinch point. There's it's a little bit more meaningful for that dog. I do like that he uses a chain because of the click, 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 right? And that's
I like that feedback for the dog.
Yep, that's for us and for the dog, right? Where people use those nylon slip leads, no noise to that at all. And so it's important to understand that the training that we do, there is mechanisms of feedback for the animal as well, right?
Yeah,
With the way that
absolutely.
we position our body, the equipment that we use, the weight of the leash, all that stuff. So awesome, man. Let me put your website up here. Anything else that you wanted to discuss before?
If I can't just like toot my own horn a little bit, I've got so we just my wife and I just starting up a little side gig. We're gonna start making leather leashes and biothane leashes and collars and all that kind of stuff. So we just started that up. So this is kind of just an example here of
oh, let me put you on
some
here
of the
real quick. There, let me show you.
yeah.
There you
So
go.
just a little example of the kind of quality we're doing, you know, braided leashes, riveting in the tabs. We're
Love it.
beveling down the edges. They're going to come to you nice and soft, no sharp edges. So we're doing custom orders for leashes and collars and stuff now. And there's something we're starting to do on the side. Something I've honestly, for the last almost 30 years of training dogs, I've wanted to get into leather work. And I guess as you get old, you would get crafty. So,
Yeah.
you know, and so, you know, you got your glass blowing stuff, which is amazing. And I've just always wanted to do this. I'm going to do other stuff too. Like, we're going to do other things that are not pet related. I'll probably make belts and wallets and stuff like that.
Oh, dude, I'd love to have a wallet from you or a belt, whatever. I mean, where are you selling them at?
So the business is called Somo. It's SOMO Craftworks, but it's Craftworks with a K.
Okay.
And as of right now, all we have is a Facebook page. I'm working on the online store.
Dude,
But
I think I saw this here.
yeah.
Oh, there it is. Here, watch. Look at this. Let me do it like this. Share this tab instead. There we go.
Yeah, here you go. Yeah, it was the post I just put up this afternoon. So don't have the online store up yet, but we're starting to take some custom orders for people and just kind of piecing things together until we get the store up. And just strictly leashes and collars at the moment. But
Somo Craftworks. I'll put up a link, you guys. Everybody, let me go over here first, and just like that. And let me like it because it's just started. And I'll put a link to the Facebook page in the comments down below right now as well. And I put a link to Mark's Canine Command website. But yeah, go to the and dude, yeah, I'd love to have a leash from you. And
yeah,
good to know where we can get some good quality leashes because there's nothing like a good leash, man.
Yeah, it really, and that's the exact way I feel about it. And there's places you can buy them, but it seems like there's very few people that are doing like really doing the quality work. It's more mass produced stuff. And I want to be in a position where somebody wants a certain thing, I can make it for them, just custom whatever they want. And same thing, like, and we'll get it to where we're doing bulk orders for trainers and stuff. So if somebody's wanting to order, 20 or 30 leashes at a time, we can work them out a price for that.
Well, and here, let me show too. Like, this is what you're talking about. So you're doing some, what is this called? I don't know what it's called.
Yeah, so I'm beveling down the edges right there to take that sharp edge of the leather away. It just cleans it up, gives you a softer feel right out of the package. That's the way when I used to have leashes made for me, I always requested that the edges be beveled down because some people wouldn't do it if you didn't ask. It takes a little, obviously you can see it takes more time to do this, and you have to do it on all four corners of the strap. So it's a labor of love, and then for if I'm doing a bulk order for somebody, I'll still bevel the edges. But if I'm doing like a one leash, somebody orders one leash from me, I'm also going to burnish down the edges of the leather to give it that nice polished look on the sides. Which is there's another video of me doing that.
That's what I'm going to go to right here.
But
this one right here, right?
It will give that leash a little bit more of a broken in feel when you first get it.
Is this what you're talking about?
Yeah. So you're basically putting this this conditioning oil onto that edge that I just beveled, and the video kind of drags on for a while, but you put that on there and you let that set, and then you basically just apply friction to it, and it gives you that nice soft edge.
Cool, man. Yeah. Well, do you know what we'd say that? Oh, there's a friction right there. We say the 6-foot leash, but dude, I like a the best leash I had was like 6 feet 8 inches.
Yeah.
Right, just a little bit longer, man, and I
Right.
don't know if why that is, but I was just like, "Man, this is a perfect size for me," so
Well, we happen to make one for you. The hard part with the longer leashes is the size of the hide. So for a 6-foot leash, you're looking at a 7.5-foot strap of leather with the handle and everything folded up. And some of the hides you can barely get that length out of it.
right, it's like the
Um,
center cut, it's like the
yeah,
okay, yeah, that makes sense why you can't find them too much.
so that's the rough side you're seeing right there that hasn't been done versus the other side.
Cool, man. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
definitely getting a
It
leash.
just takes extra time, but that's what we want to produce for people, especially with the custom, like, one-off order. They want to order one nice leash or whatever. We're gonna go the extra mile and make it the way that I would want it. You know what I mean? The way I would want it if it was going to be the one I'm working with.
Like a mitt.
Yep.
Those details definitely make a leash. And we've had some leashes in the past that are no longer available, like, I don't remember the name of the company. Jason Vasconi back in like 2010 had this company, and then he sold it, I think, to Josh Higgins, and then
Texas Leash Company.
yeah, TLC. Yep, Texas
Yeah.
Leash Company. Yep. So
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I've been picking Josh's brain a lot because he's got a lot of knowledge about the craft work involved in that. So he's been a nice resource for me. And he was doing when it was his company, he was doing some really, really good work.
well, cool, man. Tell Amy hi. I would love to do if Amy's ever interested in this. I would love to do one with her too.
If I can convince her, she hates to be on camera.
So does my wife too, dude.
Can't stand it. She'd probably do it if it was her and I on at the same time, but if it was
Okay.
just her alone, she'd probably be intimidated.
Well, tell her hello from me, man. You got a beautiful family, and
Thank you.
yeah, man, I can't wait to see you again someday. And I'll let you know if
Yeah.
I'm ever out in North Carolina. Do you ever use treat and trains, Mark?
I have a couple of them here. I don't use them as much as I have. When I was raising my little pup, I used it a bunch for some different exercises, but it's one of them things. I mean, for me, it has a lot of cool uses, but I sort of play around with it for a little while and then I move on to my typical stuff,
Yeah. Well, the reason I ask is because the manufacturer just is out of North Carolina now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they just got the licensing for that, and you can go right to the warehouse and pick them up instead of getting it shipped out. Wow, dude, they have the prices have gone up on
What are
these.
they called now? Is it a different name?
Treat and train, it is same thing, but
Okay.
I used to be able to get them for $100, and now they're 185, but you can get them in bulk for a cheaper price. And then since you don't have to pay for shipping because you can go right to the
Yeah.
manufacturer. So I put a link you guys up in the what's
Yeah,
that?
and I've also I've had good luck finding them on the marketplace. I've bought a couple of
Totally.
40 and $50 where you could tell the person used it like one time.
Yep.
And I've got them pretty cheap. I heard about it from Josh Wiggins. I heard that eCollar Technologies is in the process of developing one.
Yep, you better believe it. And it's called
Yeah.
the Shaper. And I actually get the second model. Greg has promised me, my good friend.
Yeah.
And it's almost done. Now the Shaper is going to be able to use the e-collar remote as well.
Nice.
And so that's
nice.
and then I think they're going to also have some other applications having to do with the placemat.
Mm-hmm.
Where the dog lays on the placemat for a bit to make it. I'm not sure. I'll have Brian and Greg on when they do actually launch it, and then I'll do an unboxing of it. So it's coming down the pipeline. They're doing some just finishing touches of the testing. They got the model and the manufacturing all done, and I'll contact Greg. But he's absolutely right, man. That should be coming out probably this year or early next year.
That's great. That's going to be I think that will be a good addition for people for sure. And it's always from a company that puts out good stuff. So
yeah, I love eCollar Technologies highly. Here, I gotta put them up in the chat now, ecollar.com. And the other thing is that Treat and Train, they're launching a bag for it so you can carry it with you, and then they're making it rechargeable. So
Oh,
December
that's
20,
cool.
yeah,
That's really
2025.
cool because those D batteries were always a pain to have around.
Yep. Yeah, but that I love that treat and train. Like it's very applicable. There's 4, you could do 4 of them in different channels. And then what I'll do is I'll take all 4 of my remotes and I'll post or paste them to like a stick. I
Mhm.
just did like a stir stick for paint, right?
Yeah.
So that I have them all so I don't get them mixed up, right? So
Yeah.
I was talking to the manufacturer about possibly making a 4-in-1 remote where you can
Oh,
have, because you
yeah.
can send, especially for hunting, you can send dogs and you can work on directionals with that, seeking behavior, um, and it's basically marker training, just like a clicker or something. Clicker means come get the treat from me, where the tone means go that way to get the treat. So
Right, right. Yeah.
fun stuff to geek out on.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Just good conversation, man. I enjoyed it. Thanks for inviting me on.
Oh,
And
anytime. Love talking to you, brother.
yeah, and hopefully we'll see each other in person again soon. It's been quite a few years since we've done that.
I know, man, and hopefully I'll be in a position where we can go out on a nice hike or a ruck or something, because
Yeah,
that's what I'm working on now. So maybe hold me accountable, bro. And
absolutely. And yeah, you if you wind up out this way and you want to stop for a while, we'll go hit some trails and stuff. I'll show you around.
well, and fitness for dog trainers too. That's another group, right? What's it called?
Oh yeah, it's fitness and wellness for dog trainers. It's a small Facebook group that I run. I am not a certified personal trainer or anything like that. I'm just a guy that likes to work out and I like to help people, and not that help people, but also just help motivate others and stuff to take care of themselves. And so it's a small group and it's just basically for dog trainers. Probably, I don't know, we maybe have 400 or 500 people on there or something, but it's good. People share what they're doing, and we got people on there that have dropped a ton of weight and they show their results, and it's just motivating for others to see them making these positive changes in their lives, you know? And it's one of those friendly kind of a groups. You're never gonna have to worry about being attacked or embarrassed, you know?
Where the heck is this? Fitness and wellness for dog trainers. I don't
Uh,
know. I'm part of it, so I don't know why it's not pulling up here. Oh, I think I'm part of it for Bow Wow Bill.
yeah, you probably logged in on your other profile.
Okay. If you can do, if you see it, post it up a link, because I think it's important, man. And I think that we how do I say this? We see a lot of people that could use it in the industry, I think.
Yeah. I mean, and I one of the reasons why I did it was because I felt, I'm gonna see if I can leave a comment here. I don't know if I can or not.
I think you
But
can.
it's saying that I have to connect to YouTube.
Oh, here, go to private chat. Go here,
Oh,
and
okay.
then I can
Maybe you can do it.
post it up possibly. But yeah, dude, this is, and I speak from like myself, like us, is something that I could use too, right? Is, I'm not trying to
Well, for
knock
me, it
on
was like
anybody.
I've always done a pretty decent job of staying in shape, but as you age, dog training takes its toll on you. Knee injuries, back injuries. My shoulders have been always been a problem, and so it's better to start young, and get into some kind of a program where you're trying to take good care of yourself, and because most of my injuries came from dog training. So
Well, the muscles are the metabolic engine. Like your muscles burn 7 times more calories than just your fat does,
yeah,
right? So it's something, and it's hard once you've gotten to the place where I am, where I got a little belly going, um, to get it off, and you have
sure.
to like really, really work at it. And so, yeah, that's what my goal is, to go on a ruck with you, dude, and
Yeah,
die. I'll go out there and just be like, Mark, how could you? No, just
yeah.
kidding.
We'll do it, man. We'll do it. I would love it. Absolutely.
Awesome. We'll stay there. Let's say bye in the studio, but bye everybody. Thanks for watching.
Enjoyed it.